Welcome back to the second session of today's program. After the very interesting and thought-provoking presentation by Sankalp, I'm sure many of us would like to know more about the practices and the ways in which their firm works. So to indulge into the conversation, I would request architect Khushru Irani and architect Rahul Gore to please accompany Sankalp on the stage and start the dialogue.
Sankalp, very often, firstly, your drawings are very beautiful, but a lot of architects show very beautiful drawings, and then when they show the buildings, they don't live up to the drawings, but your buildings were more beautiful than the drawings. So really, I wanted to make that point as we started. When you started studying as to be an architect as a young student, did you imagine that your practice would take this shape? And who were and what were the sort of nodes or moments in your practice, in your journey, and who were the people that influenced you to take this path?
Well, I don't think that I ever thought anything like this would ever happen. I mean, I don't. For me, architecture was a savior in a long way. From the society from where I was coming, it was engineering and medical were mainstream. So architecture, yes. The moment I joined architecture, I realized that many things were becoming very natural for me. I mean, I didn't really had to really put an effort in terms of trying to generate interest. So it naturally came. So those were. But it came out of great struggle. So, so obviously, for me, there was very. At that point when I had joined, I had very less light left in the darkness, and then I was able to pick that light, which was architecture, and it changed me. And like anybody who would be interested in architecture. I also worked for a sustained period of time and continuously. There's nothing remarkable about that part of it. But I think maybe I see the thing is I have learned a lot seeing other people's way of handling it and the way they commit mistakes. Especially from the practice where you are looking at organization. Because I was very clear after what I had done is that architecture is not supposed to be a single practice in 2015 or 2016. I mean, if it would, I would have started my practice in 90s, I could have been alone or I could have been with one person or two. But here, the whole logic of how the building industry work, the nature of clientele had already changed. So while putting practice in a historical context, I was getting aware of the fact that any old models of practice are not going to work. And in order for us to get a work, there needs to also be an architecture of the practice that one has to develop to go there. Because there has to be peripheral work built around it. And for me it was very clear that it had to be built around with a comprehensiveness of things. So, so it is not only architect, because today you don't get, yes, you get single commission, but most of the commission in future is going to be single window commission. Now you are operating in a time where I have to build, and my friends have to build a capacity where we are working together as a team to gain that capacity. And that's why you see different wings working together. I also learned early years working with Hunarshala, working with Sandeep Bhai, Kiran Bhai and Mahir Bhai and all of those on site. But I also worked with artisans on site. And so the courage to detail out comes not from anybody but from artisans, because 1.5 years, around 2009-10, I was working with them on behalf of SEP doing rehabilitation work. So I must say that they opened up, because and for me that's why I don't think I ever have worked with, actually I never worked with any architect other than Gautam Bhatia in my apprenticeship. and after that, I have been always working alone or working with whoever we are collaborating with, and right now our thumb impressions team. So, yeah, the thing is, I'm constantly looking at you, constantly looking at Samit, constantly looking at you, and I'm constantly learning to recorrect our sort of here. So, for example, I'm very careful how much of Instagram posts should be on bamboo. Because, see, the point is, people don't realize it's not the bamboo, it's the force diagram. And if you give me timber, I can also do that. The fact is, I have not got timber first and I have only got later, that if you give me steel, I can also work with steel like that. So it's I mean, I'm very conscious about the fact how to situate thumb impressions in a historical time in India. Okay, and I mean, that's how right now I'm thinking about it.
Hello. Yeah. Okay. So I think, like Kushu said, your drawings were beautiful, and I think one statement I took from your talk a little earlier, which was fairly theoretical, and I think it comes from your teaching experiences. So I'll just try and tie it. But I think one statement you said, where drawing on paper is art. Actually, it's only when it's built it gets architecture, and you were defining architecture. I thought that was a very beautiful way to say that every drawing is art. And then to translate that into a beautiful architecture is what is fantastic. But tell me now, you've been teaching along this way, and Kushu was trying to say what was your trigger or your any people that kind of pushed you in the direction of more structure and architecture, or is architecture structure to you, or is the integration of them? So were there any triggers in your early life that kind of made you interested in pursuing this type of an architecture, or was it a chance discovery? If you can shed a little bit of more light on that, and then how your education, because you're balancing, like you're saying, you want to do a practice of a certain type, but also you are balancing it off with a lot of education, which you're doing. And I've seen a lot of his work that he's been doing with his students, which is just mind-blowing. I mean, the energy, I can't believe that a semester of work can be, churning out. So it's obviously there's a huge potential to motivate people, which is also very fascinating to me.
The question about so long as it's on paper, it's an art. Actually, Pitambar's words it is, and I quoted because there's certain clarity that he brought in, and especially coming from philosophy and language background. Okay, see, the thing is, I stumbled upon structure. It's not that, and I stumbled upon structure to get an anchor, because otherwise the world of architecture was very dreamy. And it had no anchor. Every lecture that I heard, I got nothing from it. Because you feel nice about it, but you can't translate anything about it. And that's something was very difficult to me. But at the same time, yeah, there is a past to all of these, because personally, I had deep interest in this question of what is nature and what is essence. And this question has been going on since ages. It's not a question which I picked up in my college days. It was going on as a young student also, because I was studying in a place where there were people who were deeply entrenched into question of truth and question of intrinsic relationship between philosophy and science. And this question, and for them there was no dichotomy between them. So I had a fairly long teenage, 7 years of time I spent with those people. Maybe I was lucky, whatever it was. But this question of essence is what led to type, because if type is not, if there is no type, there is no architecture as a discipline, because there is no other anchor for you. You are making stories to draw a sketch, so that's a different matter. The structure part was the one which was essence, because the point is, the diagram of the force is always remains. I mean, how do you look at the diagram? You can look at the diagram very boring, You can look at it in an exciting way, but there is a limited inventory of the diagram. It is far more better to have a limited inventory to work more with than to have infinite programmatic poetics that you are imagining and then writing a program out of your creative imagination to get it, because not all the time we will have that creative energy. I mean, for every project you can't churn out something because we also exhaust. But we know that through structure there is a constancy.
You thought about designing the architecture of your practice. You also mentioned the word anchor. But you're doing, you're doing furniture, design build, work with bamboo, smaller projects, larger projects, and you're doing a kind of what you would call as a conventional architecture practice as well. So my question is kind of twofold. How do you combine all these, and how do you separate the various challenges and focuses that are needed for each of these different areas? How do you combine as well as separate them out in day-to-day life?
Well, maybe let me say that we are struggling. We are struggling because only after 9 years or 8 years we have started getting work. Thumb impressions furnitures was first set to also cross-subsidize the thumb impressions, because the cycles of returns of furniture is 7 days. The cycles of return of interior is 1 month to 5 months. And the cycle of return of architecture would be, let's say, 2 years, 18 months. How do you work out your cash flow? To me, it is as important from a point of view that none of us come from a background where we have any cushion. To then setting up the execution wing, again to cross-subsidize thumb impressions. But then suddenly we found potential in this learning. Because we found potential, we started separating out things for us. So we know which one is R&D, which one is regular work. Now, if I ask an artisan to teach, they will get stressed. If you ask me to teach 5 hours, I will not get stressed. If you ask me to work 5 hours like artisans, I will get stressed. Which means across the division of labor, there are people who are skilled at taking certain stresses. So allocation of works happens like that. And that is how you are able to balance and maintain your sanity. Because there are only 5-10% design. Most of the percent you are getting into execution and other things. So you need other kinds of skill sets. Now if you ask an architect to actually handle size, most of them are not able to do it. But if you ask engineer, they will be able to do it. So, I mean, these are pragmatic learnings that has come out of working with people.
Very nice common sense answer, and to do with a lot of we need to balance our kind of work to keep the cash flow going. But seeing all these small interventions that you're doing, I get the sense that there's something big about to happen, and I think that's what is the excitement is. But for that to happen now, you have to, I'm sure, because this is something new. There are codes for bamboo being developed across the country. But again, yours is not that it's bamboo. Like you said, bamboo just happens to be one material. It's more to do with design and to be able to use any materials and combine them and make something out of it. So how do you see, have you had a chance to kind of inform any of these code making decisions, or how do you get your designs past code, or you not have to face that? Because that will be the biggest challenge if you have to scale up to something. Is there any thoughts on that?
So I'm in the committee of Bureau of Indian Standards, which is making code for bamboo. So the codes are soon going to be out. There are old codes which are not that updated. Rest of the places I didn't have to because it was at a site where it was possible to do it. But sooner the bamboo codes are going to come in India.
But you are not directly involved with any of the research into that part.
No, so I'm part of the committee right now who is looking into the codes and giving feedback.
So currently, how are your buildings being structurally vetted?
We do on-site test and then we do a finite element analysis through a structure engineer. So whatever structure engineer gives you those tests, you do load tests, give the data. They do analysis and then that's how it works.
How does your teaching practice your non-teaching practice? And how does your non-teaching practice influence your teaching?
Well, I see them as one. I never see them as separate. I don't go out to practice because I want to get a change. Neither I teach because I want a change from practice. So there is one continuous interest in architecture that flows everywhere. And then you know the scope. You can do this in academics, you can't do this in practice. So that's how I generally work. So for example, there are certain risks in experiment. I'll give you a concrete example. Let's say when you are making a cantilever, you make a cantilever either like this or you do reverse by pulling it. So imagine a staircase which is cantilever. So you do something like this in metal. Now I want a reverse. In order to do reverse, I work with one of the students where we use timber and steel. So that when you are going this side, for example, metal is more and this side timber is more. But equivalent strength is same as this diagram. Opposition in thinking and all of those, that because you're continuously thinking all the time about it, those are possible to do in academics and not in practice. But once you have handled in academics, then you push the office to sort of try and experiment it before we do into practice.
So your studios or your teaching is like a lab, you use it like a lab, it's kind of like pushing ideas and...
Yeah, the only thing, Khushru,
Is that a conscious effort or?
see, the only thing, Khushru, here to be careful is that what I've learned is that it cannot be a lab to an extent that it is not at all successful. Because we cannot risk students to fail. We can train them how to fail, but as a tutor you cannot fail. You can only say that this works, this doesn't. So the leap is only to an extent because a tutor is supposed to deliver something which they know. So even if it's a lab, it's an informed lab where certain decisions are carefully taken, and if, for example, there is a risk next time, so it will go to the next thinking. Once we discuss with everybody, then we'll do that risk next time. So we are not passing the risk directly to student every time.
In your presentation, one of the projects you said it kind of failed, and I'm glad it failed because we could learn from that. So, I mean, we only kind of just learn from failure. So, what is your sense of take on that, or why would you be afraid of failing in an academic setting?
See, the thing is, the duty of a tutor is that what you know you should teach. Why are you in the studio is because there are certain things you know to do it correctly. So there is a calibration within which you can do mistake. You can do little bit mistake. You can't grossly be wrong. You can't say a compression is tension. So the play happens within the knowledge domain of the tutor. That which is outside the knowledge domain of the tutor, there is no play. It's accidents. So in that light, I said that. Now, as far as failure is concerned, we are not a risk-loving society anyway. So if you fail on site, the clients are not very happy with it. So we had very good terms with the client because. But the thing is, once you dream big, there is big risk. Nobody has done post-tensioning in steel. Nobody was doing and all of those kind of a thing. There was slight error. It could have got, but no, somebody wanted it straight, and so we had to dismantle it and not do it. But it doesn't mean we can't make it again.
The risk factor you mentioned is what was actually a very curious question to me, because the work you're doing is new and it's obviously not been seen before. Especially, I mean, you're dematerializing beams. Beams are becoming transparent, and it's there, still has there, but it has a presence. And I think that's the beauty of what you're creating. So risk is a given, but I think that's the exploration and the beauty that's going to come out of it. And that's when I'm saying that I think small experiments are going to lead to something. And I'm awaiting that day to see that happen. It's definitely around the corner. We can sense it.
What is sort of your what is your primary concern in your practice? What are some of the concerns that drive you, inspire you? What do you feel that wakes you up in the morning and feel that this is what I want to do with my practice?
I mean, it's not a correct. I would not say it's a correct question for me. Somebody who is like 4 hours into this. I don't think I do anything other than this. Everywhere you are seeing me visiting is only for architecture since 2001 when I joined architecture to 2024. There is no, I mean, all the time when you are thinking about it, it is there. Now, what is the concern? It's little difficult to say what is the concern, because concerns are something which so for example, we are doing some mainstream work in Kota, one of the plants that you saw, but we are trying to then look at it, how do you use less resource, how do you use less, and these are constant. Are there concerns? They are concerns because you don't want to get into so for example, let's say if Corbusier was there in this environment age, okay, what would have they said? If Khan was there, what would have there been concern? What would have been? So the concern always is that see. So one is the personal concern, and second is what you present to the people. They are not necessarily same all the time, because to present to the people requires communication. So your idea of sustainability you can't present literally to people who don't understand it. There is a different way to do the same thing. You sometimes do by saying there would be less cost, there would be less things. So use the language which other understand to sort of do that job. Okay, but I mean, what are you trying to find out? You're trying to see that there is something extraordinary about architecture. Otherwise, why would you work? Why would you not think architecture is a factory where you go, and why would you not? It's because there is a firm, deep revelation or deep insight to the fact that the same thing what I was saying in 2019, I can't see the same thing in 2024. The same thing sees differently, and that revelation comes as the inquiry becomes deeper. So, so the same flower appears different as one ages. So it's and because the thing is, what we see is colored by the knowledge that we have, and as we keep on progressing towards working for our own knowledge, our ability to see what appears are very different. So unless and until one has not deeply investigated into it for a very sustained period of time, that doesn't happen, is how I look at it. So only when it happens, then the same column doesn't appear the same column, and so you exactly know where to put the column and why only one round column will be there in the whole building and nowhere else. So that, I think, so there is something fulfilling about architecture. But again, see, this is where it's very difficult to explain. And this is where because you have asked this question, I generally want to skip this question. Because this opens up a Pandora's box of getting misunderstood, is how I would respond to it.
Hello? Yeah. No. So I think, sustainability is become such a buzzword that it's actually better not discussed. But having said that, I think I give most value to, I think, beauty in architecture, and I think that should carry a very high sustainability points, if you to say, because that's uplifting your human spirit. It's doing so many other things that can overcome, and I think his architecture does that. And looking at it, there is no way one will be able to say whether it's not sustainable, right? Because it's frugal, the materials are getting used well, it's giving high labor right now because it needs assembly, but which is a great thing. It's in a country like India, that's wonderful. So I mean, just as an observer, I would say that it's a fantastic sustainable architecture. You're mainly dealing but with roofs and lightweight roof structures. So have you also explored anything where you're looking at it as main live load slabs or other things? Is that something that you're exploring?
It's coming up.
Like we said, something from the corner. I think the audience, I'm sure, has a lot of questions after having seen this beautiful stuff. So if anybody has questions, please go ahead and...
Yeah, Sankalp, when you showed your furniture section, then there's something to design as a requirement. How the process happens, because all four of you work together, or somebody takes the lead, how it is?
Hello. So the furniture wing is headed by Nikhil, and Nikhil takes the lead of design, and then we keep giving feedback to each other, etc. For execution, Manu does R&D, is a trained civil engineer from SET, and but of course making it somewhere where all of us are interested, so we have got deep interest in making sure all of us get involved. Design is where me and Milind gets maximum involved. Okay. But yes, we keep giving each other feedback, and that's how it works. Because it's not literally possible that you can do everything. I mean, because then you are not able to get deeper into one thing, because we have learned that once you do one thing properly, then you can do other things also properly. But if you don't have mastery of one thing, then you can't do other things well, because the questions then don't come deeper.
Hello. I'm quite impressed with the bamboo work you have done. So what I observed was, in every design, it wasn't same. So there was a span you said which is one of the rarest spans. So when you start designing, what was so convincing that you can take that span? Second thing is, Now bamboo will have a definite length. How do you determine at that stage that this structure will work, how the joinery will be? And each of your projects had different joinery. So you customize it accordingly. So there were many places where you had hollow bamboo sections and the joinery was very different. How did you determine that? So how is your session with the structural engineer to how the thing works around, like the design and the structure?
You don't jump to problem to say that you will design a span of 24 meters. Actually, we were designing the shorter span side. The truth is that it was Sudhir. I don't know whether you know him or not. It was Sudhir. He said, no, you have to design this way. Because he said that, and he does very good practice in Hyderabad. And he got the project. It was an earlier school building which he designed, and he asked us to do. So he said, no, it has to be that way, because that way, otherwise all common sense will say you will work in the shorter direction. So, and it took, then we thought, the project started after 1.5 years or 1 year. One fine day when it was on our throat, then we sketched. Because we said, who is going to do that? And we didn't know anything other than the trust. But then over a period of it, something happened, and then me and Manu sat, and then we were able to sketch it. As far as joint is concerned, we are also looking for new experience and updating what is old. So we are also constantly refining our joineries at each stage. That's why you see its difference. As far as structure goes, we have to do 1:1 test as per what structure engineer asks us, then feed the data to structure engineers so that they are able to come back and say that this will work, and that's how we do it. So it's very much scientific.
I just want to know, when you are working with bamboo and the joinery you are working out in steel mostly, so is there any effect of weathering or expansion contraction or any reaction happening because of the steel and the bamboo?
See, whenever we are making with joinery, we are making, at critical point, we are making extra large holes, depending on what the configuration is. Because if you are not making that and there is a landing joint, there will be lateral buckling. Okay, so in order to avoid that, we take all of these into considerations. Okay. Most important, we never expose bamboo to water. We never use post in bamboo. Okay. Whoever says it, we don't use it because it doesn't work. I have documented houses in which roof I have documented in bamboo 50 years old. I have not documented houses where poles are more than 5 years.
The whole presentation, we can see your own development and the way you have reached at what place you are, okay, producing that fabulous work that you're doing, okay, which must have taken more than 10-15 years of your professional hard work and your understanding, and as you said, from type to really getting into the space. Now after 10 years, actually this question is not only for you and you also, okay, now you're at this place, okay. How do you train next generation, okay, to get along with you and grow with you, okay? Or means, have you systematized that also in a way, or you're still learning to grow with that? And that's the question for both of you, because both of you are doing, all three of you are doing amazing work, but when you get next generation to join us and get them along and doing further research and work all together, okay? Is there any way we can really, this is something I am struggling personally, so.
See, for me, we are doing professional work. So whoever comes has to be a professional.
for me. So I look at things professionally. Office is not a place other than professional work. You come to office to do professional work, in lieu of which you get money. Anything else is a bonus. So to me, because see, the thing is, professionalism is something as a country I have not found we are very strong at. And professional ethics means that you understand there is a particular relationship that needs to be held. And so we maintain that in our office, because that's the only way you can train them. Because with casualness you cannot, because the moment you start getting it, you can't tell them this needs to be done this way and this needs to be done this way. So that, to me, that's a bottom line that I maintain with everybody as far as I can. Objective, clarity, as much as possible. But see, look, I am just telling you that the work that you are seeing is a team work. It's a work of Thumb Impressions team. It's not my work. I only represent it. They're wonderful people, and I must say wonderful artisans. And one of the reasons, that's why in the end those master artisans photos are there, because there are immense number of these artisans with which we learn. And now, yes, if you ask me to make something, I can make, literally. Or many of our team members can make, but we can't be artisan. We don't have the physique to sort of be that. So professionalism is something I personally think is what we want to maintain in our office, and that is how we think that it can be transferred.
So I think, I mean, what you're trying to say is how do we carry on with our next generation? I think teaching, I mean, he did say that, but I think for him, actually more than his office, is teaching, because he reaches out to so many students, and when you see that work exhibited, and it inspires so many people, including me, when I've seen his work. So the students that have produced his works. I think teaching is a great way to pass on not only knowledge, I think, but I think it's also values, and I think that's what Professor Joshi, whenever from SEP we've always valued is, you're also not just passing on your skills, your ideas, but it's also the philosophy of life and living life. I've been fortunate to work with Maki, with Stephen Hall, and every time it's always been, I've realized, people, it's all about a way of life, and I think that's, as long as we can pass that on to our next generation, that it's a certain way of life that you need to follow, I think that's most interesting and important to me. If we try and do that at every stage, be it our home, office, teaching, school, wherever, I think that's what is the most important thing.
I don't know why you put the question to all three of us, but it's a difficult question to answer, and my answer is totally different from Sankalp's. Because I actually don't like the word professional or professionalism or any of that, because when I worked in the US, I felt I was in a straitjacket, come to office at 9 o'clock, leave at 7 o'clock, go to national parks on the weekends, and I hated that life. And I feel that personally, we don't have timings in our office. We have a general guideline. If people want to take leave, they take leave. I feel that people are, even whether they are a junior architect or the most senior architect in the office, people are people, they take responsibility. You give them responsibility, they'll do it. I don't like to police people. I don't believe in that. I feel that you embolden them to be responsible, and they will be responsible. I also feel that I believe that work should be fun. That you should be enjoying what you're doing. Coming to office should be fun, should not be work. And that happens when you can try and foster a sense of ownership in work, feeling that you're growing into something more than just yourself, that there's some larger vision that you're trying to build towards. And thirdly, I think the only way to really get anybody to do anything is by example. You can't tell anybody what to do. If you don't do it yourself, no matter what you say, if as a parent, I'm not a parent, but I know most parents will say, you can't tell your child what to do. But if you do it yourself, So to that extent, I think it's as Rahul said, it's the values, and I'm not in any way demeaning or saying that what Sankalp said is not important. It just doesn't work for me. And I feel that we should be very serious about what we do, but not so serious about who we are. Have fun, be light. We're all doing things, and we don't need to be feeling that we are so great about it. It's be very serious about your work, but just relax about who you are.
Would you like to put light on one statement you made? Culture invented structure.
So I said in the light that culture means a knowledge system. It is the culture through which you start investigating it, and once you start, you create some evidence on the basis of you generate theory. So in that light, the term, even if structure exists, that you conceptualize structure by defining what structure is. So in that sense, it's a human construct, the definition, but structure exists. So in that light, I said.
I think we don't have any more questions. Just one last question for you, Sankalp. What next? What's happening next in your life? What are you looking forward to, and where do you see your practice going?
Well, I think we have to soon, I think, jack up our office, because we are in a struggle phase, but a good struggle, which means that if we continue to work, it will give us more work. So the next step, of course, underline is that what happens when you do scaling in an office, and what scale should you work that beyond which you're rich. See, because beyond which, if you scale it, you'll have to divide into smaller teams. So now our questions are of all these kind, that should we go to that scale or shouldn't we go to that scale? Should we become big not through design but through execution, etc., remaining a smaller entity, because you are doing you can in the future do a single window work to make it relevant, because now as time will go, we will not single commissions are reducing substantially. Nature of clientele we can be happy about it, but then we don't open other ways of practice. At the same time, scaling comes with its own challenge. So this is a very difficult next step question that we are dealing with right now. To say that, okay, so now you are handling 20 projects under you, is that where you will stop it? And you will say that, okay, our office is done. We are not scaling and now making 2 teams which handles 15 projects. So that kind, we have reached that level where we can discuss on things, because obviously our team is now strained.
Some small advice: just enjoy your work and keep doing. Don't overthink it. I think just go with the flow and you'll find your path. Because I think your clients are going to come to you, and you've got to just keep at it. They're around the corner. They will be there. As long as you're enjoying it, you're going to make it.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank all 3 of you, Khushru, Rahul, and especially Sankalp. We could all see that you are really into the discomfort because of your cough, and you've still managed to share many good things with us. So thanks a lot. I would really like to thank one person who has been instrumental in bringing Sankalp to this forum, and his architect Nimesh Porwal. Nimesh, thank you so much. And on behalf of Team Road, I thank you, the audience, for being here on this evening with us, attending this beautiful session with us. So thank you very much. I'm sure all of you have gone through our Instagram page. If not, you can visit us at Road Pune on Instagram. We also have our YouTube channel where we are uploading all these interesting sessions. So you can find the link in our Instagram bio. So you can visit and you can share with your friends also. Thank you and good night.